exactly 1 minute past 7, and of course on a Friday. Very good morning and welcome to SmartMen's Business Amanchi, Bariji, and of course as we're heading into definitely the weekend, it's quite very important to understand and reflect back on how actually the week has always been, of course setting down the strategies, and of course it's still a fresh new month. Definitely, and also into the second month, that is the second quarter of the year, and quite very important for you to examine the performance of your enterprise or any given, of course, sector. You could be operating anywhere. It's very important to examine yourself and take a look at what should you be doing best. That is to make sure that you efficiently maximize profitability. And of course, it's quite a not really cold, a cool Friday morning. Yes, quite sunny, and definitely it just looks like we're heading towards some sort of a dry season. Just like, quite into the past days when it's been a little bit tricky, when we've been having quite unpredictable mornings. But this one is quite very good. And on a Friday, when we're heading towards the weekend, and I know majority of you just can't wait, and you're very, very excited. But of course, we have quite lots of conversations that are coming up. But of course, before we get there, don't forget the markets on the Zabu platform at exactly 8:15 a.m. today. They will be opening, and *292# is definitely your USSD code, which will lead you to quite lots of those options where you will be able to buy government bonds and securities for just as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Well, 8:15, they will be opening at 8:15 and closing at 3:15. And of course, this happens Monday to Friday. Yes, Monday to Friday, except on the weekends, like tomorrow. Of course, you won't be able to access the markets. And also the public holidays, the markets are a little bit inaccessible. You can buy government bonds and securities actually for as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings, or you can even invest more, but that's just the minimum requirement. And definitely, life will be much more easy. Zabu says no hustle, no paperwork, and also says my money, my future. And also to South Africa tells you that you got to do something new for yourself come this year, 2023. Now heading straight into the morning call. Of course, this time around today, we're looking at the education sector. As I speak right now, most of the schools go holidays. I think that was quite last week. Yes, last week actually some go. Yes, that was towards Eid. Yeah, and so many, and that's quite very interesting. But the most interesting aspect here is that when the schools break off, when the pupils go back home, there is quite a great worry that comes in, and in most cases it's regarding, financial stress of the parents when it comes to thinking about the next term. But anyway, more of those discussions and more of the analysis will be coming up. But at this very time, let's take a look at the state of education in the country, Uganda.
About currently how the education system is running in the country, we have different career paths. When a child enters primary school, or if he has not gone to school, there is a way he can gain education either formally or informally. But in general terms, the way the education system is at the moment, we have not reached at the level where we can say that we are now perfect, and when a child gets out of school or leaves the university or a college or an institution, is able to access employment in the world of work or create for his own jobs. For example, we can take an example of children who drop out at P7. Currently, when a child drops at P7 without joining any skill-based training institution, then that child might get lost on the way in the rural areas or in town here, with some of those whom we found roaming around in town. But there are those who go to vocational institutions or community polytechnics after P7. There are those who join still the same institutions, including technical colleges, after senior 4, senior 6, and so on, goes for diploma courses. But there are those who go to A level. Currently, the students that we have currently in senior 4, if they drop out now without joining any vocational training institution, they may get a problem. But with the introduction now, we have a lower secondary curriculum which has a vocational skills embedded in it. And although the program has not clearly picked up because of the lack of adequate teachers to train those people on skills. To me, I still see it is a fair way of doing things now. There is a hope for the future. However, it is work in progress. I would say that for those who complete universities who have not learned vocational skills, and for those who have gone in tertiary institution without going to vocational institutions, there's still a big challenge as far as skill-based is concerned. So I think government is trying its best to make sure that there is an improvement in skills training. And we need to give it time, the system to pick up, especially with the introduction of the lower secondary curriculum, where we have the vocational skills embedded. As of now, I should say, well, 30–40% we are there for a desired education system. But I think give it 3–5 years, the system will be better. We need to give the system time to pick up and things will be better.
The thing right now is to vocationalize the entire education system. You may have heard that we are carrying out curriculum review at almost every level. We have reviewed the curriculum, we have now implementing a new curriculum for the lower secondary. We are reviewing the curriculum for A level. We are also reviewing, and we have reviewed implementing these reviews even at university, at other tertiary institutions. So why do we review the various curriculums? Is to make sure that the products of our institutions, when they go out, they can easily fit or be absorbed into the employment world. The changes of the employment market of the employer keep changing almost every day. So that means that we who are preparing those who are going to be working, we also need to change regularly. So that vocationalization is one of the things we identified that is now a must in our curriculum education system. So that's why we are having, government is investing or pumping money in the review of the various curriculums.
I think what Ugandans need to understand is not looking at a degree that people should aspire for, but can someone get a skill through the education system that will help him earn a living? That's the most important thing. I want to tell people that even if you finish P7, you go to a vocational institution. From a vocational institution, after this is post-primary, you go to the world of work, you make some little money, you upgrade, you will still get that degree that you desire to have. But I would advise parents, this business of completing P7, or you want the child to go to secondary school, senior 4, complete senior 4, go to A level, go to university, do any course of the choice that he thinks comes out as a graduate with a degree. Parents need to drop that idea. It's not helpful at all. The most important thing is the child able to get a skill that he requires to earn a living. That's the most important thing. And that's the direction that the government is taking. And as Parliament, we are supporting that. We want to make sure that we reach there. So it is work in progress.
Well, skills development is quite very key, despite the fact that you may attain this education in any given institute. But the ultimate question is, have you been able to obtain a skill that is going to be vital when it comes to the daily life executions? And it's very important that to also understand that, yes, it's okay, you can have that degree, but in most cases, when you go into that interview room to meet that person that is going to interview you, in most cases, what is really required is, are you competent enough when it comes to how you relate knowledge that is to daily activities? And of course, they'll be searching for that definitely. And, that's when they'll go back and say, I think this is the person we've been looking for. Or he doesn't have it all. He seems like he's a bright person. Of course, when you look at the papers, they show that he really performed quite very excellent. But once you weigh down his ability on how to solve real life situations, well, it's quite, not appropriate. Well, we shall be having quite more insights regarding the education that is in Uganda, and of course, we shall be painting an overall picture of the education system in Africa later on. Well, now let's get straight to see what's happening. That is in the press. And of course, as usual, I have the new vision with me, and the Daily Monitor. It's the press preview moment as we take a look at what's happening, what's making headlines there. Well, I think let me start with the New Vision. And of course, here on the top page, we see the members of parliament, okay, no taxes, that is on diapers. Well, but still here, the key factor here, we see on the top page, about mudslides, which cut off, that is Kabale Chisoro Road. And it's quite very devastating. And at the moment, the ultimate question we're asking ourselves is, how did we reach here? That's a very important question to ask ourselves. How did we reach to this extent? Actually, not so long ago, I think a week ago, a certain track steel almost sank at the industrial area. Yes, just known far from today, just way back, just a few days ago. And, that's quite very worrying to the extent that vehicles can actually sink, that is into the potholes, the sinkholes that are created by the excess, the rainfalls that are coming in here. Now, Kabale Chisoro Road cut off, and now that's quite a very big question. As a nation, we are battling with quite lots of issues. And now, the roads is becoming quite another factor here. And, this one affects every person. It's not it's known for certain types of people. We all use this transport. Now, you can imagine what the people of Chisoro are going through at this very time. Kabale Chisoro, the trade has been halted in a way that it's quite very difficult to continue. Now the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, that is refugees bus is struggling to cross a section that is of the road that caved at the Kava village in Hamura, in Hamura Town Council. That is around district, and of course along the Kabale Chisoro Road. This was yesterday, so it's quite very devastating. And as much as they are, of course, putting up all aspects to make sure that they can repair the roads, maintain the roads in the city center. But also we need to consider what about those routes that feed Kampala, routes that feed Kampala with the goods that are transacted in here. Remember, Kampala is the market, but the source is into these rural areas. So what happens if you cut off, if you don't really care about the source? What can happen to the city, in the coming years? That will be quite very, very disruptive. Now, still here, the New Vision. We see that, of course, looking at the journalists, of course, being urged to stand, defend your rights. Journalists have been told regarding this. Of course, remember, not only just Uganda, but Africa at large is one of the continents that quite make the work of journalism a little bit hectic and a little bit some sort of hard when it comes to the different policies that are being put by the different governments, by the different stakeholders, the different policy makers, and we're intimidated. And at the end of the day, you don't see results. You don't perform as how you ought to perform, because when you expose one scandal over the other, definitely you are very assured that it's not going to be very well with you. Yeah, of course, this week it was, I think today is back, when it was the World Press Freedom Day, where we recognize journalists. But of course, it's quite very important to recognize Africa and see how best journalists' rights can be really defended right. You operate in an atmosphere where you're not really scared. Well, now government to issue new guidelines on management of public meetings. Of course, the government is set up new guidelines on the management, and that is of the public meetings, including demonstrations and assemblies. Now, in March 2023, the Constitutional Court quashed, that is provisions of the Public Order Management Act, and of course, which was of 2013, that, of course, that banned unauthorized demonstrations and public meetings, and of course, that's creating a gap in the management of such gatherings. Yes, so this is quite very, very key. The guidelines on management on public meetings, and of course demonstrations being included as such. Of course, they could be peaceful demonstrations, but still the way they should be handled matters, because they could lead to damage in the long run. Now, the Mulago boss here says, still in the New Vision, of course, pay the doctors' allowances. Yes, and of course, the acting executive director of the Mulago Hospital, that is Dr. Rosemary, has called upon the government to pay allowances, that is of the senior house officers. Now, of course, we get to realize that it's last week we had quite massive strikes from the doctors, and we saw quite many of them being arrested. Now, MPs approve 18% tax on babies' diapers. Of course, that is more of that report. You'll be getting to take a look at that further. And still, we see quite more here. In the, of course, Minister Babalanda sets tough targets for UPPC board. Yes, what are those targets like, and what has been the inspiration of these targets to be really put across there? You'll be finding out more of the details in the New Vision. Right, now still here, we see that road fund pushes for tolls, that is on all roads. And now the Ugandan Road Fund, that is the URF, has proposed the tolling of all major roads in the country. And definitely this will help to generate funds for the maintenance and rehabilitation, that is for the existing network. Road Fund pushes for tolls for that is for all roads. Of course, we know we're having that challenge, and that the Uganda, even like the Uganda National Roads Authority, that's the UNRA, that is responsible for maintenance of roads which are outside the city center, or the entire country actually, doesn't have the money to repair the roads. So suggestions of road tolls, well, I don't know what you think about them, but it's just a suggestion being put there. That means you'll be required to actually pay a certain fee when you use a certain road. And that fee is purposely meant for maintenance. That's why all these suggestions are actually coming up to try to avert that. Now, of course, here Nandu 2 granted bail, but banned from travel abroad. More of the details, you'll be getting them there when you find yourself a copy. All right. Now, NEMA destroys over 30 acres of plantations in wetlands. This is, of course, in the community news. It's very important. Wetlands, we've lost it all. I know however much we're trying to promote, the economy, trying to do business, the entrepreneurial aspect and the industrialization aspect. But of course, we need to remember the aspect of Mother Nature. Remember, there is always a feedback, repercussions. That's why we see floods all over, not only just in Uganda, but even in the countries that we really look up to when it comes to national development. Facing the floods, all due to industrialization, entrepreneurship, of course, activities which are uncontrolled in the long run. So that is quite very, very key when it comes to, balancing environment and economic activities. Now here, Muslims ask government to integrate, that is Islamic banking, into the parish development model. Of course, the Islamic banking has not been quite a famous concept in Uganda. Of course, it's there, but adaptation, and probably one of the ways that it could be adapted better is when it's incorporated together with the parish development model. And it seems to be a little bit a fair banking system, quite fair, and so many other related advantages. So now the Muslims are asking government to incorporate Islamic banking into the PDM. Now, still here in the comment section, National Water and Sewage Corporation urged to invest in prepaid metering. And of course, talking about Sudan here, still in the comment section, 2 generals, armies, and the region. Of course, we'll be finding out more. What does he mean by putting this right there? Now, still in the comment section, still on the matter of Sudan, international community must do more. Of course, urged to do more regarding the crisis. And of course, and so many of that related policies that should be put to avert the conflict in the country. Well, I'm done with the New Vision, and now let's cross over to the Daily Monitor and take a look at what's happening. Of course, here we see 10 police officers, definitely on the top page. 10 police officers held for stealing from a thief. That's quite funny. Stealing from a thief. What are you stealing there? Now, still here on the top page, what just appeared in the New Vision is also still here about the mudslides cutting off the Kabalek-Soro Road. Well, quite a very, very, very devastating aspect here. So you can imagine how the trading activities are going to be really halted here. Still further, I told you, still, that is on the third page, about a truck that was carrying quite, was 20-ton truck, yes, a 20-ton truck, which sank around the industrial area, that is on the 8th Street. You will be checking out here, just to show you how horrible the state the roads in Kampala are in. And, you know, how did we reach here? That's the ultimate question that every person should ask themselves. How did we reach here? You know? Well, more of that. Now here, the United Kingdom embassy gears up for King Charles' coronation. Yes, of course, King Charles' coronation is warming up for that. Now, the British High Commission in Uganda yesterday unveiled a number of activities which are yet to mark the coronation of King Charles III, which is slated to take place, that is on Saturday, which is tomorrow, at Westminster Abbey in London. Of course, yeah, very interesting. Of course, the Britain matter to Uganda, since we are part of a colony. We are a colony. Once a colony, always a colony. All right, now, still further, as we take a look at what's happening. Now, Kampala City Council Authority replaces over 3,900 lost result slips. Yes, I will be checking out more of that. What are those result slips which were replaced, rather? Yeah, that will be quite something very key. And now what was on top here, what was making the top headlines on the Daily Monitor, 10 police officers held for stealing from a thief. Of course, police in Kampala have taken 10 officers into custody over alleged allegations of robbing 146 million Ugandan shillings from suspected thieves. Wow. And accused of stealing 407 million from a Burundian national. That is on April 27th. That was 2 months back. We'll be finding out more what these charges are like. And you know, all this exposes the whole aspect of corruption. We're seeing how far will this case go. Will they be really held? You know, will they take repercussions for what they committed? And you know, when you take the repercussions, it's not just about sleeping in jail for 1 week, but of course, rather, refunding back what you took is also part of the process of complete justice. Yes, 10 police officers held for stealing from a thief. We'll be finding out more of the details regarding that. Now, members of parliament slap tax on bottled water and diapers at the same time. Yes, and of course, under the new tax plans, all diapers, whether for adults or children, will be taxed by the government. And in passing value-added tax amendment bill, that is 2023, Parliament threw out, that is the government's initial plan to exempt adult diapers from taxation. Now, I'll be checking out more of these details when you get yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor as we keep driving your business here. Now, still patients here in the regional news. Patients stranded as floods cut off Kasese Health Center. See how devastating this comes about. And you know, all this cuts across the aspect of course, destroying wetlands. You know, Mother Nature is always paying back the repercussions. And now people are being cut off the health, people can't access health services, rather, you know. Patients stranded as floods cut off Kasese Health Center. Now, in case you have a patient and you have to pick them from the hospital, now you're stranded in that way. So that is quite very, very devastating. Well, 25 minutes past 7, and of course, we've come to the end now. We're going to get into a short commercial break. And when I return, we have something coming in from the East African bloc, and of course, looking at what's happening on the international community. Let's get into a short break. I'll be returning for these related discussions.